2. Faith and wisdom. James 1, 2-7. My brethren, count it all joy when ye fall into divers temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. For let not that man think that he shall receive anything of the Lord. James 1, 2-7. James, in these verses, deals with a familiar theme in Old Testament thought, in Proverbs in particular, and that is wisdom. Wisdom is, in the Hebrew perspective, not a natural fact, but the result of intense and disciplined living and studying. It was seen as a product of discipline and teaching. Such teaching began in the family and continued under teachers. Above all, it was from God. We see this same idea in such psalms as 1 and 37. Wisdom is, in Hebrew, chokmah. Above all, God is wise, and wisdom is not only a personal attribute of God, but also is God in action in his works and creation. In the New Testament, we have echoes of the perspective of Proverbs and Psalms, that is, Psalm 104:24, 117, 1 and 2, and 107:7, in such verses as Ephesians 3:10, Hebrews 9:10, and Revelation 15:3 and 4. In Matthew 11:19, Jesus Christ identifies himself as wisdom. Wisdom is not an abstract concept, but rather the person of God at work, expressing his nature and being. Wisdom, that is, the wisdom of God, is also a communicable attribute of God, and it must be sought. James thus has done two things in his letter, in 1:1-7. First, his starting point is, quote, the Lord Jesus Christ, end quote, verse 1, so that his comments about wisdom are linked to the Godhead. Second, he begins on grounds familiar to all Hebrews, because wisdom literature was at that time very popular. He then declares, first, that we should count it, quote, all joy when ye fall into diverse temptations, verse 2, or trials. Very early, James shows his emphasis by his use of certain key words, that is, rejoice, joy, patience, and perfect. The goal of the trials we endure is a God-ordained one. We shall gain wisdom and joy and be made perfect or mature. This process can be a painful one. We therefore cannot feel it as joy, but we can count it as such. The testing of our faith results in patience. Verse 3, your faith is tested in the fires of affliction and refined by fire. James Moffat commented, quote, the true view of faith is that any sort of trial, hardship, or misfortune of any kind or degree is an opportunity for proving our mettle. James indicates that the ordeal of faith brings out endurance, the staying power of life, end quote. The word faith here carries the same meaning as in Ephesians 2:8, quote, it is the gift of God, end quote, and it tests and develops us as it works in us. Similarly, quote, patience, end quote, is not a passive word here. In French's words, quote, it does not mark merely passive endurance, but the brave patience with which the Christian contends against various hindrances, persecutions, and temptations that befall him in his conflict with the outward and inward world, end quote. Patience has as its active and perfecting work our preparation to be, quote, perfect and entire, wanting nothing, verse 4. Life for us must not be a series of miscellaneous events, but a purposeful sequence to prepare us for our responsibilities in time and eternity. The wisdom is from above, 1:5, 3:17, and so too our trials and testings. Therefore, quote, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. Verse 5. Wisdom comes from God, and it is He whom we should ask for it. There is no qualification. Anything else we ask for is subject to God's judgment, but if we truly ask for wisdom, we shall get it. The price to us is testing and adversity. Most people are unwilling to pay the price for wisdom, but if we do ask for wisdom, we must, quote, ask in faith, nothing wavering, for he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. Verse 6. The waves are acted upon by the wind rather than themselves acting. So too are men who are fearful of being men of faith and wisdom. Too many churchmen are concerned with self-salvation rather than the service of the Lord. The wavering man is in conflict with himself, not with the world. Where the world is concerned, he is like a cork floating on the waves, as someone has observed. Such a man, James tells us, will get nothing from the Lord. Verse 7. This is a very blunt statement, as indeed so much in James is. Prayer must be, quote, in faith, nothing wavering. Verse 6. The surviving stories about James are often exaggerations, but they do tell us of a man of strong and uncompromising faith, a staunch and resolute leader, and a champion of God's law. James strongly emphasizes a personal faith and commitment. Storms and troubles come from without. Faith and wisdom come from within. Both come from the hand of God, whose purpose for us is altogether righteous and holy. Most men want to be spared from the storms of life, but James makes it clear that every faith shall be tested. It is therefore impossible for a man to survive without faith and wisdom. James's teaching on wisdom is tied to the Messiah, quote, the Lord Jesus Christ, end quote, 1:1. The very early date of the book of James is in part likely because the whole of the revelation of the Old Testament and the coming of the Messiah are assumed to be an unbroken unity. In effect, James says that if a division be made, it will be made by others, and it will result in their own judgment. Such persons will be unstable and worthless. Hence James's contemptuous conclusion, quote, let not that man think that he shall receive anything from the Lord. Verse 7, quote, the Lord, end quote, is Jesus Christ. The crucified one requires decision and sacrifice from his followers. An important fact emerges. The exclusive stressing of faith in the church today is valid with respect to salvation, but not sanctification. James insists that true faith is marked by works. In other words, faith without wisdom and works can be both stupid and dead